So now we're moving on to card 2 for our online workshop, and we're sticking with the textured embossing folder, and this time I'm going with this Quatrefoil tile, but I'm going to show you a method where you'd be able to use one of these individual sort of thin embossing folders for just a portion of your card, and I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you can use it. And the good thing about this is we've just used the Painted Texture 3D folder. This is a different sort of folder, it's not 3D, so it's a different sandwich. So I'm going to show you the different sandwich that we're going to use. And sorry if the dog started snoring. So let me show you. When you get your make and take pack, you will have got yours already embossed, and we're going to emboss some specialty card, and we're also going to emboss the insert as well, because that really just does add a little extra. And as I say, if you've just got the thin folders, they're great for just adding that little bit of texture to your insert. They're really fabulous that way. So let's have a look. We've got our insert, which I'm going to show you how to do. We'll put that to one side for the moment. We've got some decoration to go on, so put those to one side. And before we do anything else, we're actually going to stamp this card. So this is the card from Flair. We're going to be popping these together, and as always I recommend that you stamp first, so that if you do make a mistake we can then cover it up with this other piece. So you can flip it over, you can cover it up, whichever works best. So I'm going to be using the colour and contour set, and I'm taking the stem and the sentiment and the flowers that go over the top. And let's see, we're going to need a mat for it because it's photo polymer, so we want that. And I've put the block down, there we go. This is just a teeny bit thin, so I'm getting it right over the bits that will actually stamp. This edge won't actually stamp, so like I say, I'm just positioning it to get the best stamp that I can on here. And I'm going to use Old Olive to stamp the outline so that I've got the leaves in green. I could just sort of colour this direct to stamp with a marker. That would work better in a lot of ways, but you will see how this comes together. So I'm going to stamp this. It is hanging off just a little bit on there, so I'm going to stamp that there like that. It has gone into the stamp more than is going to, there you go. You can see that even though there's ink in other bits, it's not actually stamped those. Now let me grab another block. Let's see, where's right. So I'm going to stamp the sentiment actually in Memento Black for it to stand out a little bit more. So let's grab that, and I'm going to stamp this up above. It's always possible that one of these bits could be a mistake, so it's best to just do the easier bits first. And with this I was trying to make sure that the 4 is straight, because the other is scripty and won't matter, you won't really see if it's gone wrong. It's that 4 bit there that makes the difference. So now we're going to stamp this over the top, and you just want to turn it around so that the little bud is going over the little bud. And I'm going to use Calypso Coral for this. And as always, like I've said already, we can't include stamped images. So you will be stamping with whatever you have got in your cupboard. Now this doesn't match exactly. It's not meant to. So there we go. So you would use a tall stamp here, or use a smaller stamp and repeat around. You could put your sentiment in the middle and then stamp smaller things above and below. See what works best for you. So now we can put these aside, put these out of the way, while we emboss this piece here. So as I say, this is a different embossing folder. And I'm going to pop this in here. Again, not right into the crease, because then it would miss that top little bit. So I'm going to pop this just below. I do like to try and get it centered within the pattern, side to side. Let's see how that is. So I'm just checking it now to see it's just it's good enough. It's a tiny bit more on one side than the other, but it's good enough. So this time we're using the standard embossing folder. And so we're going to use plate 1 and 2 plate 3s. So there's plate 1. Here's my well-used plate 3. And of course, if you're just using a slimline folder, the one that goes with the mini cut and emboss, you would just have a smaller area that you're doing. Now this is going to creak a bit more, and it's going to take a little bit of pressure to get it through. It does actually require a little bit of effort, a little bit more than that 3D folder did. And there I have my beautiful embossed paper, and I meant to show you the paper. This is just a little tip for you. If you're using your embossing folders, it's really fun to have a look at some of the specialty papers. So I'm using this rose gold specialty paper here, and there's actually 2 each of different finishes. We've got iridescent, which is what I've just used, and you can see it's like oil on water. There's matte, this one, and then there's the metallic finish, and you get 2 each of these sheets in a pack, and they're absolutely fabulous for adding that bit of extra luxury to a card front. So we're going to put those together in a minute, but first, while the embossing folder and machine are out, I'll show you how then I do emboss the side of the insert. Now, we were supposed to put the hinge first through, and it does protect your folder much better to do that, but I am taking a little risk here, and I think I've actually used a little bit, put a little bit more within the folder on the make and take pack. But what I'm doing is popping in the edge here, which means I'm going to have to feed it through this way. I can't feed it through that way because the machine's not wide enough. Let me bring that in. So like I say, the machine's not wide enough, so we're going to have to put it hinged to the side. done this on multiple occasions in the past. I've never popped a hinge yet, but it could happen. So it is just a little extra risk that you could be taking. Let me run that through. Again, it's a bit fearsome when it goes through. So let me just straighten the desktop a little. If you are concerned about your hinge, then what you could do is do it this way round and feed it through, but your pattern's going to have a different direction to it. So if you're doing that, then you may want to put your strip in that way again, so that the pattern matches, or choose a different embossing folder. You know, that's always an option as well. So there we have got our embossed insert, and I've put the thank you for everything. So I'm going to go with the "You're absolutely amazing" that I'm going to stamp now on this insert. And bring my mat back in. I know. Oh, and I've smudged that. All right, be very careful. I'm going to have to cover that up with something. So that's because I'm listening to the dog. Yes. So that's that, and what I can do, it won't cover it entirely, but this is what happens. What I will do is I'm going to try and put this over the top, but this is olive instead of black, but I'm hoping to get these to kind of merge together. So there we go, that's almost hidden it, almost. And now there's also a little bud that goes in the centre. So on the fly, having to do this, but this just shows, it's good for you to see when I have a mistake as well, how I tackle it. So I'm just going to then stamp that over the top like that. And that has almost hidden that smudge, virtually. I know it's there, you will know it's there, but whoever gets this card probably wouldn't know. So now we need to adhere this. As you can see, this is rolling up. So I would recommend a strong glue. Hush. I'm going to use Tombow, and then I'm going to use a little bit of weight over the top just while it sticks. It won't take very long. You could use a strong dry glue, tear and tape, or Seal Plus, but it's not going to give you any sort of space to be able to get it quite into position. So I like the wet glue for that. And what I'm going to do is pop that down, just flip it over and make sure that it's in position, and then I'm going to turn it over and pop some blocks on top. There we are, just for a few seconds while that dries, and while it is drying I can be putting this inside, on the inside. So not quite so worried about this one. It's not made the card curl. Try not to press too hard where it's embossed, because we don't want to flatten out that. And I can put that then on the inside like that. So a bit of a technical one, this one. And like I say, if you get the make and take pack, it's done for you, so don't worry. But it's just nice for you to be able to see some of the things that you can do with embossing folders. And that it doesn't have to be the whole full size of the embossing folder that you use. Now I'm actually just going to trim. I did make it just a tiny bit long, because when you put it through the embossing folder, the texture can make it just shrink up a tiny bit. So I am just turning over and trimming from the back in line with the card front. So there we are. Put that on, flip that over and press so that I'm not smudging anything there. And then we've just got our little brushed brass butterflies. Try saying that quickly. And let's see, put one there and one there, and I would put another one down there like that. So that is our second online workshop card. Again, as I say, using textured embossing folders, and just giving you a different idea for how you can use them. We'll move on now for card 3.